the time, and it's really good when a person is sick. The minerals in it help the system detoxify on a cellular level. It tastes very good. Well, I'm gonna say it tastes good to me. I said that to somebody, and they said, Susan, you like to eat rocks and leaves, so anything would taste good to you. It doesn't taste like rocks and leaves, but it really is tasty, and you can add herbs to it if you want to, but this is just an added bonus as far as going on a fast. I think it's really good if you want to just do it raw. And then the rest of this is just good information, and also, if anybody wants to know anything more about colon therapy, there's at the very end of it, there's benefits that if you have any questions, feel free after you read them, to talk to me about it or ask questions. I'd love to answer them. Okay?
If you do an enema, how much of the intestine would be covered through that process?
Excellent question. Excellent question. So if you do an enema, it depends what kind of enema. Like a fleet enema or a regular enema.
A regular hot, warm water, herbal tea or whatever.
Are you using a regular enema bucket or a little enema tube, or what are you using when you're asking me that question?
Hot water bag.
Hot water bag? Okay. It feels like it's going further, but it gets up to this point, which is a signal. Okay, now it does feel like it's getting up in here, and if you move around and do all these gyrations, you can get it up further. The best way to give yourself an enema, though, is with a French tube, and they're sold at medical supply houses, and they're this long, and you should be able to put that in 12 to 18 inches long. That is the best way to do an enema. If you know your body, and if you are gentle with yourself, you're not going to hurt yourself with that. This tube, I wish I would have brought one along. This tube is very pliable. It has 2 small holes in it. This gentle flow of water that goes up into you can get all into the haustras of the bowel and soak in there, and your peristalsis can move it out. So that's the best way to give yourself an enema. But
Where
the normal,
where do you get that French tube?
you can buy them at, it's a full enema, it's a disposable enema bag, and it has that long tube on it. You can buy them at my office or some of the medical supply houses. And they're called enema bags, disposable enema bags and buckets.
And how much of the intestinal area is covered with that one? The entire thing?
No, you're getting up to the celiac flexion, which is about this far. But you still can do a lot. You don't really want to invade with an enema. You don't want to invade anything else. And you should always use boiled water or distilled water. Never tap water. It kills, chlorine kills bacteria. And after you're finished doing an enema, make sure you replace some probiotics and minerals. Always. Even if you just do an enema. Every day, every time after an enema, take your probiotics and minerals.
When you do a hydrotherapy session, do you infuse probiotics that way as well?
If a doctor gives me a prescription.
And what kind of probiotics do you use for that?
I use Probiotic 11 from Nature Sunshine.
Okay.
I use Metagenics Ultradophilus because I found those are the strongest in the stain in the gut. And I also use some electrolytes.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the individual though. Some of them have environments. Some of them, it's like they never had good bacteria in their body.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times if people eat food and it goes right through them, they are good bacteria
Deficient.
deficient. Totally. So serious things, you guys. I cannot even emphasize that enough. Bacteria levels will stay like that for a long time in the system and you won't know it. So it's really important to eat grains and really important to take probiotics. You got to be careful what companies that you buy from. Robin can tell you about that. You want to make sure they're fresh, and you want to make sure that they are safe refrigerated, and you should never leave them in a container outside over 75 degrees. They die very quickly, so it's a useless product. And you're spending a lot of money on probiotics. And so I'm not so sure all of the ones on the market are very fair to us because they're usually dead. So do your research on that.
What about Candidium and other fungi in the bowel?
What about that?
I read a lot, especially women with problems with fungus in their intestinal system, digestive systems. how big a problem is it? How often do you see that as a bigger problem than bacteria?
It's huge for certain women that have had other health issues. And sometimes if if they eat a lot of sugar, it stays in their body. So usually I send them to a naturopath or someone that can watch them, because it does take several colon hydrotherapies. It can take up to, it can be 15, 20 sessions of colon therapy depending on why they have that in their system. It's usually, there's other problems that cause that to begin with. They're usually full of parasites of some kind.
I did a body flush in October, or late September, and flushed out a huge amount of fungus, as well as the parasites at the same time. And felt great a couple of months after that. It was really good.
We do it every 90 days until we know about that.
Right.
And you know, what's interesting about it, some people like, see, I have a child that had that, and she got rid of that so fast. She was doing well. We actually had to do colon hydrotherapy. The doctor recommended us to do that. We did, took her off of all sugar. She started eating sugar again. We never, and anyways, we went through a course of this. We did 2 treatments of this, and she was off of the sugar. She started eating sugar when she went back into school. It hit her even harder. And what the doctor didn't know is that she had parasites in there. That's not one thing that he looked at, because he didn't think that she would be bothered by that, because the environment didn't allow it to, so on. But once they treated her for parasites, she didn't have that back again, but she stayed off of sugar too.
Parasite, and I do a parasite deparasitation once a month.
Oh, it's good.
The Japanese do it once a year when their children in their school. The more you read about the cultures around the world, they're more into deparasitizing the body than we are. And I usually do it once a month, just with raw pumpkin seed. So I decided to do more than that this time around, and I couldn't believe the amount of parasites that came out.
Like you were saying with the different products that you use for different bugs, it's the same thing. Different foods kill different bugs in the body.
You mentioned electrolytes. What do you recommend for getting the right amount?
You know, I'm real simple-minded. I use trace minerals. It's a product called Trace Minerals. I use that one because it's simple, it's quick, it goes immediately into the system. And that's what a lot of my doctors like to use because of how fast it enters in. I mean, I can actually see the difference in a person within 10 minutes of giving them electrolytes. I use it in water always, never take it straight.
Have you ever bought the water that has the electrolytes in it?
Yes, I have. It still doesn't do the job.
It doesn't.
And I don't know where those electrolytes, I mean, I'm just being honest with
Right.
you, I don't know where those electrolytes have been, and I don't know where that water's been, so I don't trust that as much as I do if we add it to our water.
Trace Minerals always also has one called electrolyte balance. Do you use that?
I don't use that in there, but I do tell my people about it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do you still have to have a prescription to
Always.
get? And how does it work for malabsorption? You know, as far as if you're not able to absorb nutrients and things,
How does what work for colon?
do the colonics help with, you know, the problem with that?
In my, and it is just my opinion, and I worked with a couple doctors that we've worked with patients like that. We have seen, I never saw a cure for that. Susan, I can't tell you that I have, but I see that the person gained their weight back, or they balanced their weight, and their skin was better. And so we've seen absorption symptoms come back, like, or not symptoms, we've seen a result in that. And so I can tell you that it didn't take it away completely because I'm told by doctors that you can never take that away. In my opinion, we've arrested. And so, and they could eat full meals, they didn't bloat anymore, they had digestion reactive in their system. Their stool was a proper color. And I noticed that with people with malabsorption, their stool is extremely dry, and sometimes it has, it's very sticky. So it depends on their fat absorption as well as the nutrition, the risk of nutrition. So,
One thing I'm also referring to, like leaky gut.
yes. Leaky gut is so simple. So, cleaning, when you clean the gut and you let that environment build back up, good environment build back up, leaky gut just disappears. Leaky gut is because you have toxins in the lining, and all through the Hall's-Rosen, and all through the villi, all flattened up and flat down in the small intestine. It starts in your stomach. Actually, it starts in your mouth. So if you can get that bacteria built up in an environment good in your gut, you will no longer have leaky gut.
So do you recommend hydrotherapy for somebody with Crohn's disease?
In the very, very, very beginning stages, and only medical doctor recommends it.
Okay. What about if they're not able to? I guess what else would you recommend for Crohn's?